Microsoft promised that Windows 11's new store would be the future of software distribution, clean, secure, verified apps only, no bloatware, no malware, no scammy software bundles. They said it would fix the chaos of downloading software from random websites. They said users would finally have a trusted place to get their applications. That was the promise. The reality: the Microsoft Store has become a dumping ground for garbage software that's infecting user systems with bloatware on a scale we've never seen before. Automatic installations happening without permission. Apps users never wanted showing up on their PCs. Third-party junkware being pushed through official Microsoft channels. And the worst part? Microsoft is profiting from all of it. If you want to understand how badly Microsoft betrayed Windows users, make sure you're subscribed, because this story gets darker the deeper we go. The Microsoft Store integration in Windows 11 was supposed to be revolutionary. Microsoft rebuilt it from scratch. They opened it to traditional Win32 applications, not just their locked-down UWP apps. Adobe, Discord, TikTok, major developers could publish there. The interface got redesigned. The discovery features improved. Microsoft pitched it as safe software distribution, every app reviewed and verified. September 2023, Microsoft rolled out a new feature called Store Suggestions. The idea was simple. Windows 11 would recommend apps based on your usage patterns. You edit photos frequently, it suggests photo editing software. You use productivity tools, it recommends productivity apps. Sounds helpful, right? Here's what actually happened. Store Suggestions started installing apps without explicit user consent. Not just recommending them, actually installing them. Users would turn on their computers and find applications they never downloaded sitting on their desktop. Candy Crush, Spotify, TikTok. The installations happened silently during Windows updates. No notification, no permission dialog, just suddenly there. Patricia Miller is a 58-year-old accountant in Denver. She uses her computer for work, mostly Excel and QuickBooks. She's not technical, but keeps her system clean. In November 2023, she updated Windows 11 like she always does. The next morning, she logged in and found 6 new applications on her start menu: Candy Crush Saga, Royal Match, Spotify, TikTok, 2 other games she'd never heard of. She never installed any of them. She never clicked install on anything. They just appeared. She asked her IT-savvy nephew what happened. He looked at her system and showed her the Store Suggestions feature buried in Windows settings. It was enabled by default. Permission to install recommended apps, turned on without asking her. She's furious. This is her work computer. She paid $1,100 for it last year. Microsoft is installing video games on her professional machine without permission. Her nephew disabled the feature, uninstalled everything, and showed her how to prevent it. But 2 weeks later, after another Windows update, Store Suggestions was enabled again. Microsoft re-enabled it remotely through the update. The app started installing again. Patricia doesn't trust her computer anymore. Every update might bring more junk. She's looking at Macs now, done with Microsoft's manipulation. That's not an isolated story. That's happening to millions of users. Tech support forums exploded with complaints. Reddit threads with thousands of upvotes. Why is Windows installing apps I never asked for? Microsoft's response was corporate nonsense. They said Store Suggestions helps users discover quality applications. They said users have full control and can disable it. They didn't mention it's enabled by default. They didn't mention updates can re-enable it. They didn't admit they're installing software without meaningful consent. The bloatware disaster goes beyond Store Suggestions. Microsoft partnered with third-party developers to pre-install promotional software on Windows 11. Fresh installations come loaded with garbage. Minecraft trial version, LinkedIn, Microsoft To Do, news widget packed with clickbait, solitaire filled with ads. These aren't just shortcuts. They're actual installations taking up disk space, running background processes, collecting data. The old Microsoft would bundle Microsoft software. Annoying but understandable, it's their OS. New Microsoft bundles third-party bloatware and gets paid for it. Every Candy Crush installation earns Microsoft money. Every TikTok promotion, every Spotify placement, that's revenue. Microsoft turned Windows into an advertising platform. Your computer is the product. You're the audience being monetized. James Patterson bought a high-end gaming PC in January 2024. Custom build, $3,200. Intel i9-14900K, RTX 4090, 64GB RAM, 2TB Gen 5 SSD, top-tier hardware. He installed Windows 11 Pro, expecting a clean professional experience. The installation finished, and before he installed anything himself, Windows had already installed 14 applications, games, social media apps, shopping apps. On Windows 11 Pro, the professional version you pay extra for. He spent 2 hours uninstalling everything. He disabled store suggestions, disabled automatic app installs, turned off every promotional feature he could find. A week later, Candy Crush was back. He didn't install it. Windows Update brought it back. He's a tech enthusiast who built his own PC. He knows how to configure Windows. But Microsoft keeps overriding his choices. He's fed up. His next build will run Linux. Microsoft lost a customer who spent $3,200 on hardware that would run Windows because they couldn't resist installing Candy Crush for the 100th time. The partner program that broke everything. The bloatware crisis traces back to Microsoft's partner program changes in mid-2023. Microsoft opened the store to more developers with relaxed requirements. The idea was to attract more apps and compete with iOS and Android app stores. Noble goal, terrible execution. The vetting process got gutted. Apps that would never pass Apple's review sailed through Microsoft's process. Developers started flooding the store with low-quality software, clones, scam apps, and bloatware bundles. Search for PDF Reader in the Microsoft Store. You get 40 results. Half are legitimate. The other half are ad-filled garbage apps that barely function, some charging $30 for features Adobe Reader gives free. Users can't tell which is which. Microsoft's verification badge means almost nothing now. Security researcher Hannah Brooks analyzed Microsoft Store apps in March 2024. She downloaded the top 50 free productivity apps. 32 of them contained aggressive advertising. 18 bundled additional software installers. 12 collected excessive user data beyond what their functionality required. 8 had deceptive upgrade prompts that looked like system warnings. These weren't random apps from sketchy developers. These were featured apps, promoted by Microsoft, showing up in store suggestions. Microsoft is actively pushing low-quality software onto user systems and earning money from it. The app named Fast PDF Reader Pro got promoted through store suggestions to hundreds of thousands of users in February 2024. Hannah installed it to test. The app worked fine for basic PDF viewing, but every third time she opened a file, a full-screen ad appeared. Unskippable for 5 seconds. The ads were for VPNs, antivirus software, and browser toolbars. One ad was an intentionally deceptive "your system is infected" scareware ad, designed to trick users into downloading more garbage. This was in the Microsoft Store. Verified. Featured. Promoted automatically to users. Microsoft is distributing malvertising through official channels. Hannah documented everything and published her findings. The report went viral in tech circles. Microsoft's response? They removed Fast PDF Reader Pro from the store, but dozens of similar apps remain. They address the symptom, not the disease. The partner program still allows this garbage through. The review process still doesn't catch it. Store suggestions still pushes it to users. Margaret Liu is a retired teacher in Toronto. She uses her computer for email, web browsing, and video calls with grandchildren. Not technical, but careful. She never downloads software from suspicious sites. When Windows 11 suggested a photo organizing app through the store, she trusted it. Microsoft recommended it. It's from the official store. Must be safe. She installed Photo Manager Plus. It organized her photos nicely for 2 weeks. Then it started showing ads, pop-ups while she browsed her pictures. Upgrade to Pro for ad-free experience, only $49.99 per year. She couldn't close the app without seeing an ad. Her grandson visited and looked at it. The app was harvesting her photo metadata, uploading it to the developer's servers. The privacy policy, buried in legal jargon, gave them rights to use her data for targeted advertising. She was horrified. These were family photos, pictures of her grandchildren. Some developer in who knows where has access because Microsoft promoted their app. Her grandson uninstalled everything, locked down her privacy settings, and disabled store suggestions. She doesn't trust Windows anymore. She's asking about iPads now. Wants something that doesn't betray her trust. The automatic updates that nobody can stop. The bloatware problem gets worse with Windows Update integration. Microsoft tied Store app updates to Windows Update. Sounds reasonable. Keep everything updated automatically. But it means Microsoft can push new apps through Windows Update without obvious user interaction. Updates that should be patching security vulnerabilities are also installing Candy Crush. Critical system updates bundled with promotional software. Users can't separate them. You can't say yes to security patches and no to bloatware. It's all or nothing. And if you disable Windows Update entirely to avoid bloatware, you miss actual security patches. Microsoft created a hostage situation. Accept the bloatware or risk security vulnerabilities. Tech-savvy users found workarounds. Registry edits to block store installations. Group policy changes to disable automatic app installs. Third-party tools to strip out bloatware. But these solutions require technical knowledge most users don't have. Margaret, the retired teacher, isn't editing the registry. Patricia, the accountant, isn't using Group Policy Editor. Daniel Foster is an IT administrator for a law firm in Chicago. He manages 75 workstations. In August 2024, after a routine Windows update, users started complaining. Games appeared on their work computers. TikTok showed up on attorneys' desktops. Completely unacceptable in a professional environment. Daniel investigated and found store suggestions had been enabled on every machine, despite him explicitly disabling it months earlier. Windows Update overrode his configurations. He's the domain administrator. He set group policies specifically to prevent this. Microsoft ignored his policies and pushed apps anyway. He spent an entire weekend deploying PowerShell scripts to remove the bloatware and lock down the store across all machines. Cost the firm $6,000 in overtime IT labor. 3 weeks later, another update, same problem. Apps installing again. His lockdown measures overridden again. He's done. The firm is migrating to Mac. All 75 workstations, $180,000 investment. They'd rather spend that money than continue fighting Microsoft's bloatware every month. Microsoft lost $180,000 in future Windows licensing and support contracts because they couldn't resist pushing TikTok onto lawyers' computers. The data collection hidden in bloatware. The bloatware crisis isn't just about unwanted apps taking up space. It's about data collection. Every app Microsoft pushes collects telemetry, usage data, behavioral patterns, demographic information. That data flows back to developers and to Microsoft. You didn't choose to install these apps. You didn't consent to their data collection. But you're opted in automatically because Microsoft installed them without asking. The privacy policies are nightmares. Candy Crush's privacy policy is 12,000 words of legal jargon that basically says they collect everything and share it with advertising partners. Location data, device identifiers, gameplay patterns, in-app purchase history, all harvested and monetized. Most users never read it. They never agreed to install Candy Crush in the first place. Microsoft agreed on their behalf. Security researcher Marcus Chen analyzed the network traffic from a fresh Windows 11 installation in October 2024. Before installing any software himself, with only the bloatware Windows pre-installed, the system was already phoning home to 37 different domains. Microsoft domains, game developer servers, advertising networks, analytics platforms. Constant data transmission. He monitored for 24 hours. The default Windows 11 installation with its pre-installed bloatware transmitted 2.8 gigabytes of data in one day. On a computer that wasn't being actively used, just idle at the desktop, the bloatware was collecting and uploading data constantly. Marcus published his findings with packet captures and analysis. The tech community was outraged. Microsoft's response? They said the data collection improves user experience and follows privacy regulations. They didn't address why apps users never chose to install are collecting data without meaningful consent. They didn't explain why a fresh Windows installation uploads nearly 3 GB of data before the user does anything. They deflected with corporate PR language that means nothing. Emily Rodriguez is a freelance writer in Miami. She works from home, mostly writing articles and managing social media for clients. She upgraded to Windows 11 in December 2023. Within a week, she noticed her internet usage spiked. Her ISP has a 1.2 TB monthly data cap. She normally uses 400 GB. Suddenly, she's hitting the cap. Her internet gets throttled. She can't work effectively. She checked her data usage breakdown. Windows 11 used 780 GB in 1 month. She barely downloaded anything. Where did 780 GB go? Her tech-savvy friend analyzed her system. The pre-installed apps and their automatic updates consumed massive bandwidth. OneDrive syncing she never enabled. Store apps updating constantly. Telemetry uploads running 24/7. Her friend stripped out the bloatware and disabled everything possible. Her usage dropped to 350 GB the next month. Microsoft's bloatware cost her productive work time and extra ISP fees. She's switching to Linux, the scam apps that Microsoft profits from. The Microsoft Store isn't just distributing bloatware, it's distributing scams. Apps that impersonate legitimate software, apps with deceptive names designed to confuse users, apps that charge for free functionality. Search for Adobe Reader in the Microsoft Store in early 2024. The actual Adobe Acrobat Reader was there, but so were 15 other apps with similar names and copycat icons. PDF Reader Pro Adobe Edition. Adobe Format PDF Reader. Reader for Adobe PDF files. None made by Adobe. All designed to trick users into installing them instead of the real thing. Many charge $20 to $40 for basic PDF reading that Adobe gives free. Microsoft allowed this. Their review process approved obvious impersonation. They featured some of these scam apps in promotions. They earned 12% to 30% commission on every purchase. Microsoft is profiting from scam apps designed to confuse their own users. Robert Kim is a small business owner in Seattle. He needed PDF software for invoicing. Windows 11 suggested Adobe PDF Pro Editor through store suggestions. The icon looked like Adobe's. The name sounded official. He bought it for $35. It barely worked. The interface was clunky and it crashed frequently. He'd been tricked by a copycat app that Microsoft promoted. He requested a refund. His request was denied. He disputed the charge with his credit card. Microsoft suspended his account for chargeback fraud. His email stopped working. His OneDrive was locked. He spent 3 days on support calls getting reinstated. He bought a Mac the following week. Microsoft lost a customer over a scam app they approved. The update that made everything worse. In March 2024, Microsoft rolled out Windows 11 Update 24H2, promoted as a major feature update with performance improvements and new capabilities. What it actually delivered: more aggressive bloatware installation. Update 24H2 changed how store suggestions worked. Instead of occasionally recommending apps, it now actively installs them on a schedule. Microsoft calls it automatic app provisioning. Every week, Windows checks if you've installed the apps it wants you to have. If not, it installs them automatically. No notification, no consent, just installs them. The list of automatically provisioned apps includes Candy Crush, Royal Match, Spotify, TikTok, LinkedIn, Disney+, and about 20 others. Microsoft has deals with all these companies. Every installation generates revenue. Your computer has become Microsoft's advertising billboard, and you paid for it. After Update 24H2 rolled out, the complaints exploded. Tech support subreddits got flooded. Microsoft forums filled with angry users. Why does Windows keep installing apps I don't want? Microsoft's moderators gave copy-paste responses. You can disable this in settings under personalization, store suggestions. But that setting gets reset by updates, and even with it disabled, some apps still install. Catherine Wells is a university professor in Boston. She teaches computer science. She understands operating systems deeply. After Update 24H2, her Windows 11 machine started installing apps weekly. She disabled every setting related to store suggestions. She edited group policy to block automatic app installation. She modified the registry to prevent store access. Apps kept installing. She monitored the installation process with Procmon, a diagnostic tool. Windows Update was bypassing her lockdown measures and installing store apps anyway through a mechanism not exposed in any user-facing settings. She documented the entire process and published a technical breakdown. Her conclusion: Microsoft designed automatic app installation to be unstoppable without completely breaking Windows Update. Users can't opt out without compromising security updates. It's intentional dark patterns. Microsoft knows users don't want this. They made it impossible to prevent. Catherine switched her personal machines to Linux. She still teaches Windows in her courses, but tells students the truth. Modern Windows is adversarial software that works against user interests. Microsoft is training the next generation of IT professionals to distrust them. The performance impact nobody talks about. All this bloatware isn't just annoying, it's degrading system performance. Every pre-installed app runs background processes, telemetry collection, automatic updates, notification monitoring, all consuming CPU cycles, RAM, disk I/O, and network bandwidth. On high-end hardware, users might not notice. On budget laptops, it's crippling. A $400 laptop with 4 GB RAM and a low-end processor can barely run Windows 11 by itself. Add the bloatware Microsoft installs automatically, and it becomes unusable. The system crawls. Apps take forever to open. The disk thrashes constantly. Budget PC users are suffering while Microsoft profits from bloatware deals. Independent testing by Tech Analysis Group in May 2024 compared Windows 11 performance with and without bloatware. Fresh installation, all updates applied. Default bloatware included versus stripped-down installation with all bloatware removed. On a mid-range laptop with an Intel i5-1235U and 8 GB RAM, boot time with bloatware averaged 47 seconds. Without bloatware, 28 seconds. That's 40% faster. Chrome launch time with bloatware averaged 6.3 seconds. Without bloatware, 2.1 seconds, 3 times faster. RAM usage at idle with bloatware was 5.2 GB. Without bloatware, 2.8 GB. Nearly half the memory freed up. The bloatware Microsoft automatically installs makes Windows measurably slower and consumes massive system resources. Microsoft knows this. They have telemetry from millions of devices. They see the performance impact. They don't care because the revenue from bloatware partnerships outweighs user satisfaction. Linda Chang bought a budget laptop for her daughter's online schooling in September 2024. $380 at Walmart, Celeron processor, 4 GB RAM, 64 GB storage. Tight budget, but should be enough for web browsing and Google Docs. Out of the box, Windows 11 consumed 52 GB of the 64 GB storage. The bloatware alone took 8 GB. Her daughter had 12 GB of usable space. Within a week, Windows updates filled the remaining space. The system couldn't update anymore. Error messages constantly. Low disk space. Free up space to continue. They couldn't delete enough to make room. The bloatware couldn't be uninstalled through normal means without admin access and registry edits Linda didn't know how to do. The laptop became a brick. Unusable. She returned it and bought a Chromebook. Microsoft lost a customer because their bloatware made a budget laptop non-functional. That's happening to low-income families everywhere. The people who can least afford new hardware are being hit hardest by Microsoft's greed. The enterprise rebellion you didn't hear about. The bloatware disaster isn't just affecting home users. Enterprises are furious. IT departments spend countless hours removing bloatware from corporate deployments. David Martinson is IT director for a manufacturing company in Ohio with 300 employees. He started deploying Windows 11 in January 2024. His team created a standard image: Windows 11 Pro, corporate applications, security software, and nothing else. They deployed it to 50 machines as a pilot. Within a week, users reported games appearing on their desktops. His locked-down corporate image was being modified by Microsoft remotely. He investigated and found Windows Update was installing store apps despite group policy restrictions. He spent 2 weeks researching and found he needed to configure multiple policies: disable store suggestions, disable automatic app installation, disable consumer features, and block specific app IDs. He reconfigured the image and redeployed. 2 months later, a Windows update changed policy behavior. Apps started installing again. Different mechanism, new app IDs. His blocks didn't cover them. He's done fighting Microsoft. The company is switching to Linux for non-specialized workstations. 200 of their 300 machines will migrate by end of 2025. That's $60,000 in lost Windows licensing over 3 years. Plus, the ecosystem lock-in Microsoft loses. Those employees won't use Office 365, OneDrive, or any Microsoft cloud services, all because Microsoft couldn't resist pushing Candy Crush onto factory floor workstations. The lawsuit that might change everything. In July 2024, a class action lawsuit was filed against Microsoft in California. The claim: Microsoft engaged in unfair business practices by installing unwanted software without proper consent and by promoting scam apps through the store. The plaintiffs argue Microsoft violated the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act by accessing user systems to install software without authorization. Microsoft's legal team filed to dismiss, arguing users' consent through the Windows 11 license agreement. The trial is scheduled for March 2025. If the plaintiffs win, Microsoft could be forced to disable store suggestions entirely and face hundreds of millions in damages. The numbers that show the rebellion. Windows 11 adoption has stalled. Microsoft projected 60% market share by end of 2024. They're at 28% as of November 2024. Windows 10 still holds 68% market share. Users refuse to upgrade. And alternatives are surging. Linux desktop market share hit 4.5% globally in October 2024, up from 2.9% in January 2023. That's 55% growth in under 2 years. Linux Mint downloads increased 140% year over year. Ubuntu desktop installations up 89%. These are users who would have stayed on Windows if Microsoft hadn't become hostile. The breaking point that's coming now. Windows has coasted on inertia for decades. Most people use Windows because that's what came with their computer, because that's what they've always used. That inertia is breaking. We're approaching a tipping point. If Windows drops below 50% market share, the entire ecosystem shifts. Market leaders fall when they stop serving customers and start exploiting them. Microsoft is exploiting Windows users. The bloatware crisis is one symptom of a deeper problem. Microsoft views Windows users as resources to monetize rather than customers to serve.